but somehow the rest of their lifestyle is not lining up. And this is the conversation that seems to be taboo in our culture. In our society, the one thing that nobody wants to talk, we'll talk about spirituality. We'll talk about ethereal realms now. We'll talk about really anything under the sun except the one thing that I believe actually makes the most difference as a gateway to the rest of those things, which is the food. Really, if you were to look in our society, like all this stuff tomorrow when people come here, and I looked at the lineup tomorrow, you're going to be getting in and out about like conspiracies and UFOs and all that stuff that I'm totally into, right? But the one thing that's not being talked about is the food. And where I'm going with that is that when you get into all these ideas, it's very obvious that there is kind of agenda going on in our world, right? And if you were to look at this objectively, if you were those people, whoever they are, whatever that is, up on the top of the platform, and you were looking down and you said, okay, how do we control this situation? How do we kind of just like keep everyone in their little bin? We'll give them their little box, right? You give them food in a box. So they're eating in boxes, they're driving in a box, to work in a box, staying boxed in. Boxed in reality, right? Well, these are interesting correlations that have come up over time. Now, when I was boxed in, I didn't think about any of these things, of course. But as I got onto raw plant food and I started going through the detoxification pathway, meaning I broke down the obstructions in my body, the digestive blockages that were literally weighing me down, that were causing massive inflammatory responses in every single tissue of the tissue matrix of my body, right? I had no idea how my psychology was being influenced, how attached to the system I was. Right? And this is one of my things. I was filmed in a documentary that my friend was doing, my martial arts background. One of my friends is a filmmaker, and he drove out to Los Angeles just to come and meet with me and do this interview for this documentary he's doing. And the whole thing is about breakdancers and like the kind of like rebellious, the rebellious youth, and kind of using street art as a form of expression. And I got into it, and the biggest thing I had to say about that was, you have all these rebels, you have all these rogues, and that's how I was growing up. I'm a total rogue. That's why I'm out here, spitting this message to you guys and running around the world telling people that they can eat raw plant food, they can get onto superfoods, they can get into herbalism, 5,000-year-old herbal practices from Chinese medicinal system, from the Ayurvedic system, from the Shipibo people in the Amazon. I mean, you could do all this stuff. You could heal yourself and have the best time ever all at the same time. You could literally go and look up, what's the website, Hoy? Spring water? You could go to findaspring.com. You could find local, untampered, pristine, God-given spring water in your local environment. You can go to that source and get water straight from the source, uncontaminated. You could do that if you wanted to. I've been running around telling people they could do that. That's a little rebellious in our culture. Anyways, going back to my point, he filmed me on this documentary, and the thing I had to say that came through me was that you have all these breakdancers, all these street artists, and their whole deal, they wear these t-shirts about being a rebel, and their whole thing is, if you're eating KFC, if you're paying a phone bill, if you're paying your mortgage, and I'm not making a judgment, but if you're eating junk food, guess what? You're deep in the system. Right? And so that's kind of my deal here when I'm talking to this community, is that we really got to get clear on the food thing, guys. This is the biggest attachment we have in our culture. We live in a culture right now that you have people from loudspeakers. Literally, this is like one of my biggest pet peeves. You get to know me, you know I got a lot of them. But this is one of my biggest pet peeves in our culture, is that you got people from loudspeakers literally telling us You got to be perfect. You have to have the best skin. You have to have the best body. You have to have the best car, status symbol. Whatever. Here's junk food. Like perfection, what the hell? Like if I was going to strive for perfection, don't you think you would give me something a little more optimal than junk food? Right? So the perfection mentality that we're going for is being operated in a culture of mediocrity. Does that make sense? It's the greatest contradiction of our time.